alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Spooky's Old World Edinburgh. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Becky.
And happy Halloween! Yep, that's right, since it is Halloween at the time of uploading this video, we thought we would take this as a wee opportunity to look around some of the graveyards of Edinburgh and see if we can find any spooky looking graves. So a little bit more light-hearted this one, but there's plenty to see, trust me, so you'll want to stick around. But first, you'll actually see we're on the roof of the museum here, believe it or not. Look at the sights that you get, and you'll probably recognise them if you watched our Old World Edinburgh 1 and 2 videos. But since we're on top of the museum, we thought we would show you some of the things we saw back on the way down, as we made our way to the ground. So, here we go. First of all, what a way to make note of this amazing features on the side of the building. I mean, you would not even get to see these unless you were up here, really, because they're out of the sight of the main street, hard to see anyway. Quite amazing, I thought. Look, just amazing detail. And this is actually Dolly the sheep, the famous Dolly sheep, if you remember, the cloned sheep, here in the museum. Poor thing, eh? Not so sure what this was, but just thought it was absolutely fantastic. And that big, the big sphere around his head, the big circle around the head, reminded me of a lot of paintings I used to see, and I always used to wonder what it was. But this made it look like it was actually some sort of thing joined onto them. But maybe it's something completely different, I don't know, but anyway, I like this one. And look at these next couple are from Egypt, I believe. This was fantastic, actually. I've never seen something like this in real life before. Very cool. And look at these tiny wee monkeys carved into the top of this flask. I thought this was just amazing. Look at it. I mean, it's so tiny. I can't explain how tiny it is. This camera's zoomed in so far right now. But you'll see in a minute just how far away it goes. Look at that. Tiny wee monkeys. And look at this one. I did not know this was here. It's actually a case in stone from the Great Pyramid of King Khufu. Would you believe it? In Edinburgh. I couldn't believe it. But look at that. It's just amazing to see. I've never been this close to something like that. So, aye, here you go. Pretty cool sight, right? Though it might be better if it was still on site. And here's just some views as we make our way around the city. So, our first stop is the New Calton Burial Ground.
This is New Calton Burial Ground. It is said to be built through necessity when Waterloo Place was built, cutting through the old Calton Burial Ground, or so they say. We find this a tough ask, as it is said that each body and their corresponding gravestone was carefully moved here, and in some cases entire vaults were rebuilt. This is said to have taken place from 1817 to 1820. Some of those buried here are said to include Abraham Lincoln's favourite poet, William Knox, and lighthouse engineer Thomas Stevenson, the father of Robert Louis Stevenson, the author of Treasure Island and A Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The tower you've been seeing is said to have been built to protect against grave robbing, such as famous tales of Burke and Hare. Is this a case, or is it perhaps another piece of Old World?
So there you have it, and look at this, there's wee bits like this everywhere around here. It's just like, it's a bit of a wreck, to be honest. It's falling apart, and there's just bits lying everywhere that you can lift up. It's a bit of a shame, because it seems to be, you know, falling into a bit of disrepair. A lot of damage, but still a lot of amazing sights. I mean, look at this. You can actually see there's a bit of metal inside there, running all the way down. Does it go in the stone at the top? I don't know, but it's really interesting to see how these were put together. So continuing to look around this graveyard, this historic graveyard now, and here's some of the things we saw. Oh, look at this amazing piece. Imagine trying to carve that. Or were some of these cast? I don't know. I always think about that, when looking at the stone in Edinburgh and some of the, the bricks. If geopolymers are a thing, do you think they also cast some of this stuff? It's just something I think about now and then. But please share your thoughts on that. I mean, look at the detailing on some of this stuff. It really is on par with a lot of the buildings you see around the place in Edinburgh and of course around the world. But look at it, and it's just a graveyard, and it's a shame to see it just left here, sort of rotting away, really. There was things falling off, there was things in disrepair, like just bits lying about. It really is a shame to see. But here's a wee sort of layout of the land as we pan round the graveyard. So there's the tower Becky was talking about, said to be to watch out for grave robbers. And you just see the graves everywhere, the walls, the tombs, amazing. Really amazing. I mean, look at the quality of some of these. And there, the big hill you see is Arthur's Seat. That's right in the middle of Edinburgh, in the centre, and it's said to be an extinct volcano. We actually have views on top of that on Old World Edinburgh 2 video. Just something else we saw in the area, thought we'd share it. And of course, it wouldn't be a spookies video without a wee bit of wildlife, So here is a tiny wee bit of wildlife, and very fitting for Scotland. We've got this bee on top of a thistle, which, is famous for being the flower of Scotland. So here we are. And look at that, you're joined by a wee pal. Lovely, Another wee thing we saw looked to us like a gas lamp, dated 1838 by the looks of it. We thought it was a gas lamp because you could see a sort of metal pipe coming out the bottom of it, which appeared to be hollow when I touched the bottom of it. So yeah, just another wee cool feature. And looking around here, of course, is a sort of thing you'll see quite a lot, these urns. You see them on top of buildings and everything, but here's another one in the graveyard. And look at these, look how thick this metal is. I mean, quite amazing, right? Really made me think of like Frankenstein and all that stuff. But yeah, just showed you the quality of the sort of work that's been done here. Pretty remarkable. Now we're just going to make our way up these stairs, but I wanted to point out these blocks on the right, because to me they look like bigger blocks, made to look smaller. And you'll see I've outlined it here. Looks to me like that's one big block rather than two smaller ones, if you know what I mean. You can sort of see the outline going around it, and you'll see it again when we look around at these. Just thought it was really interesting, just never seen that before, so I thought I'd point it out. Now we've just got a wee bit more to see here before we move on, and you'll see that tower up ahead that was said to be on the lookout for any grave robbers. Very interesting, I mean, and look at all these tombs, these buildings, these crypts, whatever they are. Very, very good and amazing pieces of work. And just to show you, I mean, look at this one. It's amazing. There seems to be some sort of dog on it. A great piece of work. Not so sure what it means, so leave your thoughts on that. But the effort that's went into these, especially if they've all been carved, I mean, pretty mind-boggling, right? And it's almost time to move on now, but here's another strange one we saw. I don't really know what this is or what's going on. Found it a wee bit creepy, if I'm honest. But here is a wee bit more wildlife. The bees are back. They were definitely loving this area. Not sure why, just all the amazing flowers, I guess. But we're just about to move on. But before we do, please enjoy these pictures that we took in the area. And as always, please leave your thoughts in the comments. So right next to the burial ground is this amazing building, and Becky will tell you more about it in just a wee second.
This building is said to be a monument commemorating Robert Burns, perhaps Scotland's most famous poet. Interestingly, this is supposed to have been designed by architect Thomas Hamilton, who is said to have designed several prominent Edinburgh buildings, including George IV Bridge, which we will see a wee bit later.
So there you go, a monument to Robbie Burns. What do we think? And just to point out these amazing buildings in the area, we will of course be taking a look at these at some point in Old World Edinburgh. For now though, let's take a closer look at this Burns monument, and the first thing I wanted to point out was how these blocks interconnect. Look at this, pretty amazing. I've never really seen or noticed much like this myself. I thought that was an interesting piece of extra work going on there. And now look at this, amazing. Look at the detail on this. It's just mind-boggling, and you can see some of it's fell off at the top. I wanted to highlight that pattern going along the bottom. I mean, look how intricate it is. It's just mind-boggling. I can't believe that was carved. It's absolutely amazing. Look how straight it is. Amazing piece of work. Now look at this amazing photo from 1859. I've left the link in the description where we found this, but mind-blowing. Now from what I could see, the foundation stone for this place was actually laid in 1831, in September then. But look at this. This is, I couldn't find a date for this, but with horse and cart and everything about, look at it. It's standing on its own. Was this already here, maybe? Now you can't normally just walk in here. We actually came back here on a time that they call Doors Open Day, where some places around the country let you enter. And in this occasion they had some people singing Robbie Burns songs and telling us some information about the building while we're there, so that was quite fascinating. But here's a look at the inside of it. As I said, you don't normally get to see this. I mean, it just looks great, doesn't it?
Davy, Lordy, Davy, let us spend the day with you, my reindeer dainty.
I think this could be something older and repurposed into a monument. I'm just speaking my mind, just speaking my thoughts, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was originally built as something else. And it is also said that there was once a marble statue of Robert Burns in here himself. But that has actually been moved elsewhere in Edinburgh, but maybe we can catch a wee glimpse of it in a future video. Also wanted to look at this. I mean, look at the detail up here. And what you actually see at the top there, it's said to be 3 griffins at the top. Pretty amazing. I mean, look at the intricate details on the sort of shell looking things going around it. I just don't buy that they were able to do this back in the day with horse and cart. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but this is some amazing skill, especially if it's carved. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Look at all the wee details. There has been some restoration work done here in 2009, so that's where you'll see some of the new stone. But it's just fascinating. What do you make of it? Please put your thoughts in the comments. I mean, there's just things to notice all over this structure. You could spend hours here looking at it. Sadly though, we don't have that long, so we'll be moving on in just a second. Before we do though, here's a wee look at some of the rocks we found, which were actually underneath where the monument is at. just wanted to show them because they looked pretty interesting. But here we are, time to move on, so let's say goodbye to the Burns Monument. So was this built just as a monument for Robert Burns, the great poet, or do you think it could have already existed and was repurposed as a monument for Rabbi Burns? Please do share your thoughts. So we're getting close to our next destination now, but here's a wee look around Edinburgh. We're up on the top of the mound here. And now we're entering Princes Street Gardens. I just wanted to point out some interesting stonework that I thought you might appreciate. But first, here's some interesting metal clamps that we found on the stone railing going down into the gardens. And over here, I thought this was really interesting. Look at the stonework. Look at how it's all interlocked together. I just thought that was really fascinating and just wanted to show it because I don't see that every day. This is the Ross Fountain. It's actually made of cast iron and it was said to be made away in France. It was actually an exhibit, it says, at the Great Exhibition of 1862, aka a World's Fair. So this fountain that you're seeing right now was actually said to have been an exhibit at the Great London Exposition of 1862. That was a World's Fair. How amazing is that? So Wikipedia tells us that it was purchased by a gunmaker called Daniel Ross in 1862 for £2,000. I'm assuming that was at the World's Fair then. And it said that it was then subsequently gifted to the city of Edinburgh. It actually was transported to Leith in 1869 in 122 pieces, it says, and it was installed where you see it now back in 1872. Mad, right? But very, very cool. So we finally arrived at our next location, St Cuthbert's Kirkyard. So exploring this second graveyard, we did actually find some creepy things and interesting little features, so stick around for that. And here's one of them coming up. Look at this. Just thought this entrance down below looked really old, and yeah, I wondered how cool it would be to go down there and have a look in it, right? And here's another familiar sight, looking up at the spire, just to see if we could see anything, zooming right in, but there you go. And just something else to point out, I mean, take a look at this quite strange little carving. I mean, what is that? It's very, very strange. And then the dates I thought were interesting too. With that, it looks like it says 1692, but that does look a J. So could it be? Interesting stuff, right? I like the stuff with the dates, and I find it really mysterious. And here we are on a wee walk round to the front of the church now. You'll see the graveyard and everything around, which we'll be having a wee look around and to see what we can find, anything spooky. But here's the front, and you'll see this part looks kind of newer to us in a way. Maybe it's covering up an original entrance, who knows, but really nice, eh?
This is St Cuthbert's Church. Although it is said this building was only completed in 1894, the earliest record of the church is found in a charter of 1127.
And that's because the church is much older and it dates back that far. And there's actually said to have been different buildings standing here, with this one being the most recent replacement. But of course, looking at the dates all over it, it seems that this is a combination of different periods.
Interestingly, this image of the church can be seen on a map from 1647, with the building looking remarkably similar to that standing there today.
Down the right in this. Shows you how old that is, eh? Be interesting to know how long it would. There's that symbol again for the church. You know the one, eh? It is the beast. So for the Halloween. Oh look. So we found something spooky. Look at these amazing skulls, and look at this site. Had to capture this. What an amazing piece of work, right? So continuing to look around the graveyard, and we find a couple more things, so stick around. As well as for our next location. Our next location is quite a fun one, so you don't want to miss that. But here, look at this one. Wow, I mean, come on. What a gravestone. That is just fantastic. And here's some more fantastic and creepy things that we saw in the graveyard. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. A few spooky looking ones there. Really amazing pieces of work, aren't they? They're just really works of art. Incredible stuff. But here we are back. In the direction we're headed is towards Edinburgh's Lothian Road, and you'll see as we approach that the pavement is actually on top of part of the graveyard here. You'll see it's just held up, and we're going to get a closer look at it in just a wee moment, but isn't that incredible, eh? Here's a look at the archway up close, but before we go in, I'm going to look up at the street level. If you've seen our previous Edinburgh videos, you'll know we like our pillars, and we like to check out the similarities between them. And there was a couple here, but the patterns were different. But yeah, still interesting, and we'll add it to the list. Everything aside though, they're pretty cool, eh? Now we're going to take a wee peek underneath here, and I'm going to shut up for a minute, so yeah, let us know what you think. How interesting is that, right? Just left to rot away underneath a busy street in Edinburgh. But just continuing to look around the graveyard here and look at this beast. How cool is this? Really looking like all the sort of designs that you see in these old world type buildings. We'll get a closer look in just a second, but first, here's another really interesting one. You know, it shares a lot of those similar features that you see on a lot of these, what we think is old world type things. But look at it, it's fab. I just wanted to show it off, as well as a few other sites coming up in this graveyard before we move on. And I wondered if anyone knows what this sign means. I was really curious. Yeah, really intriguing wee bit. But what a great piece of work. And of course, wanted to get a closer look at this one. Look at the wee gargoyles and stuff. Look at the amount of work that has went into this one alone. It's just absolutely amazing. Just standing there at the edge of the graveyard. And look at this wee one up here again. Is this a griffin? Just like we saw on top of the Burns monument earlier? Could be. Could it be that creatures on these sculptures were actually real at one point? Who knows? But we like to highlight.
Can we have a look? I'll try and get in the video. Yeah, you can't really see. You can see it a wee bit on the video.
Oh, that's because I'm better here.
It seems to brighten it up a bit, eh? Hopefully we can pause that and have a read. But even the roof and the ceiling in there, look. Oh, the work that would go into that, eh? Look at the corner, that's amazing bits. There's been a guy sleeping in here.
So really quite an interesting wee bit, and as I said there, think of the amount of work that's went into this alone. It's very impressive stuff. So it's almost time to move on now, but here's a few pictures of the area.
So we're gone. Look at that, eh? Why would this one be so bad?
Indeed, why is this one in such bad condition when compared to the rest around in the area? When you look at it, it looks like something we would see on our Hunting for History videos, maybe away out in a forest or something. Don't you think? Quite intriguing. And here's another one, just sort of mashed up. It's a real shame to see a lot of these like this, but yeah, a lot of the graveyards in Edinburgh seem to have ended up like this over time, and they are meant to be really old, to be fair. But obviously this one's seen way better days, but it does give you a little idea of what's actually behind these sort of parts of the gravestones and stuff, and a little insight into how it was made. So I find that really fascinating. But yeah, here's our final looks at this graveyard. Before we actually leave though, I just wanted to point out this. I mean, this is a railway that runs to Edinburgh Waverley, the main railway in Edinburgh actually, in the centre of town. It takes you, goes past Haymarket and that as well, but this is that railway, and I just wanted to show you it. Goes right underground there. How good would it be to be able to have a look around in there, right? But what a place. And the famous Edinburgh Castle, of course. But we'll be back looking around these areas in future Old World Edinburgh. We're only just getting started really, so if you enjoy this sort of stuff, stick around for those future videos. But first, we're going to see the final few sights as we make our way to our next location. And here is one of those sites. I mean, look at this gravestone, whatever it is, just left to sort of rot, and it's broken apart. A piece of it just standing next to it on the ground. I mean, anyone could walk away with this. Such a shame to see. But anyway, we're going to move on now and make our way to our next location.
Grass market. Nice.
Since we were passing, I wanted to highlight this bridge. This is where Kingstables Road that we're on now passes underneath Johnston Terrace, and you know, I've always loved this bridge. I thought it was really fascinating because of these big spires at each side, and they're on both sides of the bridge as well. So yeah, I just wanted to capture it. I thought some people might think this is quite an interesting place. I certainly do.
Ho ho ho. Look at that.
So here's a close look at this spire, this obelisk, but we've almost arrived at our final destination. And that final destination is Frankenstein's. So there's the famous Greyfriars Bobby statue, and we'll have a look at the graveyard associated with him another time. But this road you see is actually the George IV Bridge, and we actually drove under this earlier, you see the wee clip there. But this was the one that was said to be designed by Thomas Hamilton, who was said to design the Burns Monument that we saw earlier on. Anyway, here's some info about the building you're seeing now.
This is Frankenstein's, a horror-themed pub in Edinburgh. Of course, it wasn't always that way, and was originally built in 1859 as Martyrs Reformed Presbyterian Church, and was later home to Edinburgh's Elim Pentecostal Church. In 1999, the building was converted to a pub and Frankenstein was born.
Now we're going to go in and get a better look, but first look at these amazing windows. Just amazing. I love the design of these. I think it's fantastic. And we get a view on the inside too. And here is the inside. You can tell that it used to be a church in the past. I mean, look at it. We've seen a ceiling just like this, I think, in another Old World Edinburgh video. And here's a good look at that window from the inside. Absolutely amazing stuff, right? And why this shape in particular? Did it have another function or meaning? It's possible. And just looking around the place, you can see the Frankenstein theme in full effect. And some of these amazing ornamentations up here, still present, I guess, from back in the day. But sadly, it's almost time for us to go. And before we do though, we wanted to show you a little extra something that this place does every now and then. So if you come to visit here, you're in for a treat. And if you don't want it spoiled, if you plan on coming, then stop watching now. But if so, here's a wee happy Halloween to you. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for joining us for this Old World Edinburgh video, and I hope you have a happy Halloween. If you did enjoy it, please maybe give it a wee like.
Or maybe subscribe and join us next time.
And please do consider subscribing, because we've got quite a few things on the way, including both Hunting for History and Old World Edinburgh videos. If you have any suggestions of areas you'd like to see in Edinburgh, or even Scotland, feel free to comment them below, along with your thoughts of anything you've seen here today. But thanks again for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Happy Halloween, and cheerio.